Hi, Ben. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Nice to see you, Drew.
You're one of my favorite people on the planet. You, for me, Ben, are truly a Renaissance man. You embody everything that I personally have devoted my heart, mind to within the world on behalf of Mother Earth, on behalf of humanity. And what I mean when I say that you're a Renaissance man is just that, not only have you fostered our sacred plant, cannabis, but you've also done incredible work for the last many decades on behalf of hemp and hemp transforming our world in terms of all of the industries that can have a positive influence on you yourself owning and founding Hemp Flax. I want to go back to where this love of Mother Earth and plants first began, which many people around the world may not know, is it began in your mother and father's garden and your mother having green thumbs.
Yeah.
And can you tell the world a little bit about that origin story of your life?
Well, we were a mother's family, and my mother goes sometimes in the weekend. She go to a camping with a trailer, and then a small garden, and there she had these begonias, these flowers, and the whole garden was full of it, and she always nursed them like crazy. But all the kids, we didn't really see it. We see it's beautiful, but we didn't see the efforts that she did for it. But the more I came there, the more I saw it that she really have a spiritual contact with these plants. She loved them. She nourished them and give them water, and clean it all the soil and give them fertilizer, and that was nice to see, But I didn't really get it by then, But it came back later on when I started to grow cannabis. Then I realized uh, the feeling that she must have, that she had before, that when she there, and somehow I inherited that feeling. I think because I never I live in the city, so I was a city kid. There was no hardly any trees there, So it was really the nature was something different for me until I go to school and I had a very nice teacher who was at the end of my last school because I was a rebel in school and I didn't learn much there. But in the latest year, there was a teacher who was really involved with nature. He bring us to the fields and to look at birds and to look at plants, but mainly birds. So there I saw nature and I loved it. It was very nice. Even we have to go Saturday morning, 6 o'clock to the field. But this guy could say, well, today the gooses are flying over, and then we go there and the gooses fly over, the knowledge that the guy had was so amazing that, yeah, that's also something that stick in me as a child. And well, then I just started to grow marijuana myself, I plant myself, and I went to the many places where the farmers did it: Afghanistan, Nepal, many countries, Morocco, the whole lot. And I always saw the farmers there. I was always looking to the farmers, and that was very interesting, to see that they have the same kind of feeling. And I think every farmer have uh, that have this relation with their crop. And somehow because of the herb touched me so much more that probably I get a bit overspilled, or what, how you call that? Um, too
Overcome,
much.
yeah, overcome.
Yes, but it was beautiful. So that was for me. It still is, that I still feel the connection in that sense. That the earth and the sun, is something we have to be very grateful because it makes food, it makes everything. So the nature in what we do, no matter what you do, is always there. It's always around us. Even in the city, we don't see it, but the nature is there. So that's
It's still there. Yeah.
stick with
Even in
me.
Amsterdam, in Amsterdam or in the Dutch sensibilities are, it definitely, back in 1998 was the first time that I lived there. But there is this connection to beauty, natural beauty, of the world. I noticed how everyone had beautiful floral arrangements in their windows and this
Yeah,
sense of aesthetic beauty of the natural world. And you touched on something that leads me to my next question for you. Is just that there's this sacredness of stewardship and husbandry that humans have been doing, which you're alluding to with what you were saying of just seeing farmers all over the world. This to me is the substance of why we do what we do, to connect people to our sacred plants, to get their hands in the soil, to grow their own medicine at home. And it's ancient. And so you got to, as you said, observe stewardship, observe husbandry. You also got to observe, even from an early age, crossbreeding, to, going back to your mom, how she strengthened plants. Can you speak a little bit about that too, before we move on to the next question? It's just that stewardship, that husbandry of the conversation that we can have as individuals with Mother Nature to work with her to strengthen her expression.
well, it is. Um, Sometimes I feel a bit how a softy, when I talk about it, and I don't talk too much about it. I don't believe in hocus pocus or whatever. But I remember that we in the greenhouse and with my friend that we started to grow, we sit there around the plant. The plant is here, and we sit there and we move a bit in front, and then it's closer and closer, and the leaves were here, and closer the leaves came, and you sit there, and about maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, people can try it. Can take some time longer, but the plant opened themselves. The branches opened, and all we were so stoned. But for me, when we go back, you can go more inside the more. Say you have to be patient. But the other thing is, I don't know where we got it from. But the other thing was, you blink. You sit there and you blink to the plant, and you try to feel the plant, and to me it works. And that was a spiritual moment in a way. And I have only a few of those, but very strong. Uh, the other spiritual moment I tell you right now is I was in Japan. I was invited as a speaker there for the Kyoto Hemp Forum, and beautiful people, the Japanese, and they bring me to one of their very seldom data, very rare um, test fields, and that is maybe 500 square meter or what, with plants. And they invite me to go there. And one day before, it was after the forum was finished, I was there with Paul Stanton and other people. It was very nice. But before I go there, the day before, I slept and I dreamed that I go in a field with the Japanese, in a field, in my dream, a field. And I came, and it started to rain. It was raining, raining. And I took my shirt out. And then the Japanese also took their shirt out in my dream. And I told my girlfriend, I said, I had such a weird dream. I dreamed we go to the field, but it was raining. I said, I hope it's not gonna rain today because when we go there. And the amazing thing what happened is we went there, believe me or not, the sun was shining, we driving in the car, and we arrived there and we walk into the field and it started to rain. And I said
That's
to my
amazing.
girlfriend, to say my dream. And I didn't tell the Japanese guys that, but I took my shirt out, and they all did it. I still have the photos. They all took the shirt out, and we're there in the field in the rain. And that was amazing experience for me. And the next day there was another seminar, and then the wife from the prime minister Abe at that time, she had also a speech, and it was also beautiful because he was really in favor of legalizing cannabis in Japan, and that was really special because he was the wife of the prime minister. So, and she also said the same. She had a story that she went into the fields, and she say, "When I walk in the field, I feel the energy." And I think every grower have feel can feel that energy. They feel it. Everybody feel it, but it's how you interpret it. It's maybe different. But that is the whole thing with nature. You can look at a bird and you can say, "Wow, this is a beautiful bird," but you can also feel it like in a contact. And I remember I was one time I was quite stoned, and actually I was quite depressed because I had a divorce behind me, and I sit on the beach and I'm just sitting depressed there, and then I see a mosquito going on my arm, and I think, what? Normally you slap, but I just look at it and I thought, wow, what amazing thing, a mosquito, a guy flying around searching for some food, sit on my arm, put his straw in it, and suck the blood. And I said, wow. In the meantime, I look down and there's on the sand a huge crab coming. And I think, wow, you can imagine how stoned I was. But I think, wow, that is amazing. That this life is so amazing, and normally, or you slap the bloody mosquito, or you're scared of the crab, but it was something like that's an awareness what you have with nature. And yeah, that is beautiful. And I had that always with my plants. And also when selecting the smokes, when we did crossbreeding, of course we have to test it. So we had a line, and you still photos from it, and we to still do it. We have a line, and we have the different varieties. And when I go there, I take two, three, sometimes four of the different ones, but not too much, just a bit, and I smoke them all. And then I go back, and then automatically after a few times, you go for the one you feel. And that is
Right.
with cannabis, of course. It's you might take another choice. It's not for everybody the same, and that's why I think not only it's in the diversity of the cannabis, because we got about more than 1,000, maybe 1,200 different varieties. It is unbelievable. I'm a collector, not only for my museums, but and in my private things, I collect art and antique stuff. Cheap, not really, but beautiful copies sometimes. But that's the thing. You got something with something, and that feeling is also when people you have always your favorite. You got your favorite strain. I have three or four of them, but there's always one you pick, and that's what you like. And I was just before in Thailand, and there are so many now. Also, a lot of American brands and varieties, and Sensi Seed works now with the American young growers and breeding grounds, and they have also beautiful grass. It's beautiful and it's nice, but it is still not the one I smoke.
Right.
It's quite personal in a way. Also, I think.
And we're going to get into that too. I want to ask you what your favorites are. But before we go to that, I wanted to just do a little bit more about your history in terms of two things. In your teenage years, you got to be with the Holland American lines. and you got to travel the world. And then later, when you owned a clothing shop and you were traveling through Pakistan and Afghanistan, um, can you take the viewers through those times prior to, going back to start other things that we're going to discuss with the cannabis museum and everything?
Mm.
Um, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I feel, as I hear you speak, that there's this sensibility that was nourished in you as a global citizen, as somebody who has traveled and met so many people from around the world, and that it influenced you in your feelings about how to work with the plant and how to work with mother nature and how to kind of work as a businessman as well.
Well, traveling, you need money, of course. But in those days, before I grow, that was around 74, I think, something like that, 73. I'm not sure. I always forget the years. But I had a boutique, and we make clothing ourselves. And what I discovered, they have in Pakistan, they have beautiful sari. That is with all the paillettes on it, the small glittering things, on the. So, and I bought some clothes sometime in London, but then you have the chiffon, a very nice material. And I learned that in Dubai there was a big textile market that time. This chiffon was quite cheap, and in Pakistan they do the embroidering. So I go there. So I go first to Dubai and then to Pakistan, and I find the shops where they do the embroidery. And to my shame, I have to say that was also very young kids working in it, But in Pakistan, you everywhere you saw that, so you're not really aware of it. Um, but then, of course, I have to wait until they finish. So those took 6 weeks, 2 months, sometimes even 3 months. So in that time, I travel around, and I was a smoker already, so I wanted to see where was the good hash, and I went there, and of course, beautiful people, I go to the Khyber Pass and go to Afghanistan, and the people are so nice. And then I go in the mountain, to the farmers, and it was amazing. They're very very sweet, nice, friendly people. Good stuff, good hash, and I was asking, what happened, how you do it. So they tell me a bit about what they're doing, and then one guy said to me, "Yeah, there's some people come here to ask for seeds, but we don't give them. Why not? You know that we don't want to get other people our materials." So I say, why not? I say, I live in Holland. Maybe we can try it there. So they were so friendly. They gave me 10 seeds or something. I forgot the amount, but just a handful of it. And I thought, well, seeds are not forbidden. I don't know that I can easily take it back to Holland. And I did. And a friend of mine, together, he had the idea to put a lamp. And in those days, in America, homegrown was already a long time established. I don't know a lot with lights, but we make a teepee with these big neon lights, like a teepee around the plant. And we had one plant inside. And there comes my mother again. We just, everybody who grow, I think absolutely that marijuana is not addictive. Growing is, I miss it so much. I live in Malaysia. I can smoke legal, but I cannot grow. So that was the moment that, yeah, the whole world opened for us, because it worked. The plant was really going, and that was before I went to Pakistan. In Pakistan, I bring the seeds because what we grow was hemp actually, so you could smoke it, but you didn't get high from it for my first plant. So when I brought my Afghan seeds, they were amazing right away. So that we had a good smoke. You know, the indica is nice to smoke actually. Everybody goes with sativa now, but indica is a good high, a very good high. So
Mhm.
that's how it's, you know, how it started to see, hey, you know, we can do that. So let's get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and that leads perfectly to the next question is that time period then when you came back is you started to grow it as you said and you started to figure it out and you went to, coffee shops at the time, Prix d'Ami and Happy Family.
Yeah.
And so I think that, around the world people don't know this story of, your attempts to create
It
because
was amazing.
hash dominated European culture.
Yes. It
So,
was.
as you were saying, the home flower was something really I feel that you were greatly responsible for in bringing it to Holland.
Well, me and afterwards also Sam, and the Skunk Man, and David Watson,
Of
and
course.
there may be a few others, but not maybe one or two more. But we didn't know each other at that time. You know, we were separate. But it was funny though, because when I grow it and it was really good stuff, uh, we tried to sell it, of course, because we had a few kilos or what. And I went to Amsterdam, like you said, to Prix d'Ami, and they didn't want it, but I knew the guys because sometimes I bought some hash from them. So I said, hey, I give them a pound or what for 3 ounces, I don't know. I give them, I say, listen, if you don't sell it, I give it back to me. But if you sell it, let me know. And the happy family, the same thing. I say, here, I give you something, and we see. Actually, they paid right away, but after they didn't want to buy anymore. But in Prix I came back a few weeks later to see what happened. And I say to the guy, Alex was his name, a nice guy. I say, hey, Alex, how about my cross? He said, I don't know, I don't know. And he asked the worker behind the till, he said, hey, what happened with this spinach, this green stuff? And the guy who worked for him was an American, actually. And he said, yeah, it's finished already right away because a lot of Americans come to buy it and it's great stuff. So, and then I thought, wow, So then it started, and then it really started. And then,
Yeah.
money is a tool. I never was running and still not really for the money. It was really the tool to do all these things, what I did. And it's beautiful that we had the opportunity, but I've been busted many times. Not only with with grass, but before with hash as well. I was a rebel. It was not allowed, but in Holland, if you get caught, it was, hey, come on, you don't do it again, and not a heavy punishment on it. So in that sense, we were lucky in those days because even you got a kilo or what, okay, you didn't go to court even. So, but they bust me many, many times. And with the grass, the same thing, because from one thing came the other one. So we go into a greenhouse. We had money to rent the greenhouse, but actually the greenhouse was supposed to be demolished. So we paid the guy a rent for, and we were in a huge greenhouse, and we had maybe 15, 20 plants there, in a huge greenhouse. It was really funny, but it worked, and it's then the money came a bit more, and I was very naughty. I go to another greenhouse. There was a young guy, son from the farmer. I say, hey, can we make some money together? Okay, and we put the plants there, but I did some cloning already. I think, but whatever people say, I think I brought cloning in at least for in Holland. Nobody knew about cloning, and I learned that from a greenhouse guy. So we put
Mhm.
clones there every 5 meter one very early in the season. And then the farmer's father came to see with another farmer, and and they're looking around to the little plants every 5 meter, and they thought it was a hidden camera joke. They didn't believe it was real. But later on, 3 months later, it was huge trees, beautiful grass. So that was really boom. Then we made money and we could do other things. And I can open a coffee shop, and I was the first coffee shop in Rotterdam. They bust me many times with that, and I was a rebel anyway. But it was fun. And then even if they bring me to court and the judge say, how can you do it? You come here already so many times, and you stop now. Eh? I said, I try. I do my best, but I cannot promise. You know, and even I say, oh yeah, I try, but
And you
you
were
can.
arrested quite a number of times. I mean, how
Oh,
many times were you arrested in total?
well, I counted once, but it is some time ago already. It's nearly 80 times, but it's small busts. It's also small.
Right,
They came in and hey, they come or they take me to the police station, get out again. And that
right,
was
right.
a couple of times a week. It was amazing, especially when
A
I
slap
opened the
on the
first coffee shop. Hmm.
right.
And every
Yeah, and I
time,
wanna talk yeah, I wanna talk about that too because we're getting into the history, so now we're in the '80s, and
yeah.
you opened the Sensi Connoisseur Club, and
Well,
Sensi
that is something that because I was busted so many times, also with a greenhouse, with a big greenhouse, and I was in jail, not so long, a few weeks. But in the meantime, I studied the law, the opium law, they call it, the special section in the law. And I read something that still valid now, international, in the international treaties, that everything of the plant is forbidden except the seeds. That's really in the international law. So I went to a lawyer, an expensive guy who specialized in agriculture. I said, listen, I read the law here and it said accept seeds, but how can I get seeds if I am not allowed to grow? Oh, he said, but if you, you have to think about 2 weeks or what? I came back and he said, yeah, you, but you have to grow seeds. No, not marijuana. I said, no, but seeds, hemp seeds. And he said, yeah, according to the law, you could do that. So I did that. So I have a little greenhouse. I had that already. And I go to the police station there and say, listen, guys, I'll be growing hemp seed there. My son Alan, he goes to the agricultural department because you have to register, and you have the same thing, we start to grow hemp seeds. And everybody was laughing. Even the police come to visit and drink coffee in the greenhouse. And they liked it, They have no idea. Because they didn't know, there was nobody really knew what marijuana was, Nobody cared. It was fun.
it was just a plan, and so that's huge because it really and that's why I consider you, along with Dave Watson and Neville and Ed Rosenthal, you
Yeah.
guys had this conversation going on between the US and Holland, and it was this conversation
Oh,
going
yeah.
on, and we're gonna get into that time period of conversation, this really, nexus
Well,
of
that's not.
activity, of people communicating, and that was Sensi Seed was born at that time because of you, being ingenious and figuring out that you could kind of beat them at their own game and could do seeds, as you said.
Yeah, well, that was the moment that because I was legal growing, not selling, but of course, we sell some. But that was the moment that I make money more, and then we opened the museum at Rosenthal. Started the museum actually with some other people from the coffee shop, and I don't know in that time maybe also David Watson was involved, but I wasn't there yet. But it didn't work, so they closed the museum before they started, and I took it over. I paid the coffee shop guys the amount of money that they paid for it, and I took it over. And with Ed, we opened it together, and right away the police come, and the police make a big thing of it in the news and everything. So, and then even the Minister of Justice was on the radio and say, "Hey, this museum is impossible to open, cannot." So Ed and I, we had to go to court, But I opened the museum the next day. We opened again, but we have to go to court within 14, very quick. And I said to the judge, I said, when did the museum was closed in Amsterdam? It was the only time it happened. This was the Nazis closing the Jewish Historical Museum, a Jewish museum. That was the only time. So how can you close a museum with this information? And we won. So that was fun. And the museum was also, we had the seed shop next to it, and we still have. So the seed shop was really, and then in the corner we had a coffee shop that was not really selling a lot of hash or grass. We did, I think, we did some, but it was the whole world came there. So all these people, the information of growers and activists and everything came there. So that is also when Ed Rosenthal and me, we started the first Cannabis Cup in my little restaurant. I had a small restaurant with my ex, and we opened it there. We started there, and later on it went to Amsterdam. So, but the melting pot, what we say, it was amazing. All the so many people came there together, and it was always fun. And upstairs, everybody can sit there and talk there, and it was a nice, beautiful period of time, and because people from all over the world came, and also with information, of course. So Ed Rosenthal and also Robert Clark, David was there, David Watson, and many people. So it was a melting pot of information and sharing pot. We share information. The cloning was also
Right.
something new, and we share it.
Right. There's an incredible picture of you and Ed at that time, and you're standing in front of a big sign that says Sensi Smile.
Ah, yeah, 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 yeah. That was the
We're
coffee
gonna
shop.
show that. We're gonna show some of the images, in the interview because I have them from the wonderful, cover feature that we did. But,
Mm.
it was 1986 when the Sensi Seed Club shop opened, and you sold Neville Schoenmaker's, hopefully I'm saying that right, um,
Yeah.
you sold his seeds there. You also sold, SSC, the Sensi Seed Club genetics. And it's just such an important time because to me, that was the moment that the modern seed industry was born, was through that what you're talking about with the cross-pollination. Of course, Dave Watson was running ads in High Times and and pushing it in the US as a leader. Ed, as you
Activism.
said, was kind of all around and being also kind of what the industry would become, which is a global conversation. And
Well,
but that was the beginning. And I want to just take people back in time to those moments and what it was like to launch a seed shop and what was the vibe and
yeah, it was
the interesting
amazing.
that were happening.
We didn't have so many varieties. I had about 9 or 11, and Ed brought me to Neville, uh, introduced me to Neville, and then we become friends. And he was interested in my seeds, and I was in his seeds. So I sold his seeds, and he sold mine, and uh, that was very nice. But then he had the bad luck that he got because he sold seeds to America, and I never did. Uh, we do now, but we never did that time because I knew it was too risky. But anyway, Neville did, and then he got a big problem. What was the name from the DEA? The Green Merchant or something. There was a
Right.
raid. Many people, a lot of people get busted, and there was a guy who really was a snitch for everything. I've forgotten most of those things because it was not so positive. But then Neville went to Australia, and what happened is he wanted to sell his company. And Neville was quite a cool guy, but I didn't have enough money to buy it from him. So I say, Neville, give me a break. I pay the rest next year. No, no, no. He go to Australia and get busted there. But also they block all his bank account and all his money resources. So he was totally broke. And then he wanted to sell me the company because even his wife came. He was married at the time. And his wife came. They're totally broke. And of course, I supported him right away with money. And I took it over. And exactly what I said, I pay him the price what he asked. Only that time, what I could pay, I paid, and within within a year, I paid everything. So, and then he was, yeah. Even I went to Australia, if we can to see if we can rescue him with Bob Ward, a very nice guy, American also who lives in Holland, and he make the first filter tips and packaging for grass, um, printed with the logo. But we go there, but he had already a plan. We didn't know that. So I go back to Holland, and I think a month later, he showed up. He came with a false passport, and but he was broke again, because of the wife. I don't know what, but he was in a bad shape. So he came, back in the Cannabis Castle, what is now what it called the Cannabis Castle. That was Neville's house before, but I bought it over. So there he stayed there again with my son Alan, and also Susan de la Police and some other people, growers, and together they grow there. And that was a beautiful time also, and that took about a few years. And then Neville went to Amsterdam and worked with some other people. But that's the story of that. And it was. Uh, I don't like to make stories about people. It's good and bad. I cannot. I like only the good story of people, because all these people we're talking about, they're all heroes. And like David Watson, uh, 40 years ago and something like that, 35 years ago, he wasn't my friend. He didn't like me. I don't know why. I was too smart for him, or I don't know. But later on, since the last 15 years or what, we become very close friends. Well, good friends, not close, but good friends. And he called me, I call him, and uh, sadly he passed away, and just a few days before I was still talking to him. But they're all heroes. Ed Rosenthal is amazing, amazing person. All of them, all of them. The High Times people. Malcolm, Steve Hager. They're all heroes. Soma, from Soma Seeds, beautiful people. And that is so nice also because in the Sensi Seed and the museum, because what all those things what happened there, that many of my staff workers opened their own seed bank, like yeah, I forgot all the names, but they started the seed bank also, and also in America they start. So and that was happening in France, in Italy, everywhere. So I didn't not only sell seed, what was so nice that you saw everything happening. You know, these people came back a year later, and then they had their own stuff. You know, and it was beautiful, and that was really how to say it. That was good feeling because sometimes some people said to me, "But hey, many people go to jail, eh? Because of your seeds. They bring it somewhere and it's forbidden, you know." And then I only have to say, "But listen, that is not the seeds. That's the system. That is not the,
Right.
no- that's the system that it makes it forbidden. But on the other hand, how many people it makes happy or even rich or even very rich, you know, that is, and now it's an industry. There's a whole industry. The same with the same with hemp. The same story. You know, it's so it is nice to. I used to say, you know, Sensi Seed bombard the world with seeds, where they bomb bombs, you know, the bombard with bombs and destroy everything. We bomb seeds all around the world, and that's good. I still think it's well done. You know, there are some things to say. I have to
It is.
admit, because you can bring it also to the wrong places and can also do some wrong things in the traditional fields. You know, people bring them to Afghanistan or to Morocco. The crossbreeding that can be a problem. But what I hear, it is not too big of a problem, but only in some areas. But it can spread. It's I don't know that, but it's also nature because you know that is the funny thing. People travel, you know, everywhere from Mexico to America, from Morocco to Holland to America, everywhere. But plants also travel. All the plants travel. All this, everything we eat come from somewhere else, and that's nice.
100%. And, that's part of why, this video podcast is called The Seed. And it's double entendre because for me, it is about seeding consciousness. And obviously, growing fireweed with fire genetics is a wonderful thing. And enjoying the pleasure of all these different unique expressions of the plant is amazing. Uh, but it's also, the plant changes you when you
Yeah.
work with it. It
Mm.
changes you. People think, "Oh, this is gonna be fun and it's gonna be recreational," but from what I've seen is that once people start working with the plant, it develops their consciousness, which I think is such a sacred thing
Yes.
that, have. And I wanted you to touch on that story of when you were actually incarcerated and the plant spoke to you, that you had a sense of sacred communion with the plant, because I feel like that happens for all of us and the people listening, is that at some point or another, I've met thousands of people around the world and they have that sacred moment where the plant speaks to them.
Yeah, especially growers, especially growers. You know, you don't meet many times people who don't grow the best grass there is. You know, they all grow the best, and I love that. You
Yeah.
know, and love it. And then, but you know, there's one thing more that I have to say about is um, there's a lot of varieties. And Ed Rosenthal told me maybe a year, 2 years ago. He said 85% of what is now sold in America has Sensi seed genes in it because all the hybrids, of course, you know.
Of
But there is
course.
something else what intrigued me in a way that when I smoke those hybrids, I don't get that high. I don't get that, how you call it. Maybe it's too much, you know, in the air, but you don't get that connection. And what I see is that everybody grow now feminized or out of flower, And the original seeds that we still have, there are still the original seeds, like how you say that. Yeah, it's something else. It is from before, but it's not only from before. It is also a spiritual thing in it. There's also when I grow that, it takes more work, but to select them, but to take the male out, but it is worth it because the smoke is different, the high is different, the whole thing is different, and that is the same with soil. The soil brings so many things into a plant that I'm scared for all these people that play with all this kind of different fertilizers and magic stuff. I don't know. Sometimes I got some smoke. I was in Thailand and they give me some and look nice, smell nice, and you smoke it and then you go, "Ooh, what is this?" It's not because of high. It's because of something there. I don't know what they do,
Right.
and then that people should not experiment too much. If you do some crossbreeding, fun, but don't play with spraying and funny stuff in the earth or in your fertilizer. That is so for me
Right.
that is
Keep it
very
pure.
important.
Keep it
Yeah,
pure, keep it simple.
yeah,
And as you said, the old ways, the ancient ways, I launched seed sales myself with the Seed Savers Club, which is really kind of a homage to your club. I
mm,
realized it later. It just came into my consciousness, that idea. But um, we want to always sell regs as well as autos and femmes, even though autos and femmes are
yeah,
dominating,
yeah. Good. Yeah.
especially in Europe. But I have a deep respect for regular seeds that you have to do the work for, as you said, and you have to take the time to observe both the male and female plant. You get rid of the male, obviously, or cultivate genetics.
Well,
It's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting
Well,
because when you're working with the regular seeds,
you know.
you're
Yeah.
also immediately looking at the expression of each plant. You're choosing, you're picking. It leads you into genetics naturally
Well, the
because
thing is,
you're observing the plants.
the thing is that we got about. I'm not sure. I didn't hear the latest figures, but like I said, we collect seeds. So we got about 1,200 varieties, but most of them, around 1,000, are really land races. So I got this collection from Russia, from the Vavilov Institute. This was in St. Petersburg. I don't know what's the name now. It's a different name now, I think. But there was an institute, and they had a big selection of hemp seeds and also high THC plants also in it. And there was a guy working there, Serge was his name. He was the director. And then with the splitting of the USA, the Russia, they stopped this institute. So all the seats were there, but they're gonna stop. So he came to me because I met him once in a forum, and it was very nice, beautiful Russian guy. And he came to me and he said, "Well, I knew him already from there." And then he came to us to sell the seats to us. He said, "You want to buy them?" I said, "Of course I want, because what you gonna do else?" So I bought them from him, but not only that, because he was out of a job. He said he would like to go from the north, Russia, back to the south all the way and collecting hemp seeds again, because that was his job also. Um, so he did that, and I paid him, for the traveling and everything. And a nice man. So he brought a lot of seeds, and we got a lot of varieties of that. The only we have quite a beautiful grow area room for that. It's quite beautiful. You have some photos, I think. But the problem is, when you see now the new times, the new age, all the big companies coming in. we are not able to do that race. We don't have enough money to invest so much in research and development of those plants. So we're planning to sell it. We sell the collection. It's pain in my heart, but it's very honest that we cannot do it. We still have our seeds with no problem. What we have is, but we have 1,200 varieties. You can imagine. So to keep,
Yeah,
we used to keep,
massive.
we got about, what is it, 300, 400. We keep them alive. We got always the mother plants. So some of the varieties, they're already 30 more years old because we keep them going and we keep them alive. So we still have the original from 35 years ago, and that is something very special. But the other seeds, all the races, what the land races from the Russia and up to Turkey, Hungary, Romania, all these countries included. Romania, we had some from Romania even a few years ago, from Romanian farmers. But that is something very important for the diversity in the future, and we cannot take the responsibility anymore. I cannot, because it's a value that you cannot subscribe. It's like animals distinct, is it? Things distinct, and that should not happen. And then a lot of things are distinct. A lot of seeds are distinct also in the world, and that is something I think is very important. So I hope we find a buyer for this. The company is beautiful.
Well, I'm glad that you're bringing it up because one of the reasons why I interviewed you for the cover, and we did a 29-page feature, but for me, it was very important that people really knew the true history because obviously, in the forums, all of this misinformation gets shared. And I really wanted the global cannabis community, especially the breeding community, to understand the facts. Is that
Yeah,
Sensi Seed grew from, bringing in Neville stock, which he gladly sold to you to
yeah,
save himself and
and it,
to
wa-
to be able to
those was
be safe.
they were
And then
mainly
the
American
Russian,
varieties. Neville had mainly
right.
American
But
varieties.
right. But this is how you grew Sensi Seed Bank, was actually by being somebody that could be helpful, that could, because of what you had been able to grow with your company, that you could actually help Devil, that you could help the Russian fellow, and that it also
Yeah,
grew your library. Then that's the
yeah.
facts, and that's I really wanted that to
No,
come
that's
out in
true.
the interview because I want to really set the record straight. And because you really are, just an incredible man in that way, where you did the right thing, as you said, to protect and preserve the genetic histories and lineages.
No, but to keep that selection of seeds we got cost us more than 1 million a year just to preserve them. So that is, and then if you want to do a lot of research on it, how much it's gonna cost? So and now you got companies they put billions in the cannabis industry. They should come. They should get it, and they because I know it's. I say that the same about hemp. Uh, we are activists and we wanted it and we do it, and but if the same with good hash or good grass, is it only for us or is it for the whole world? It should be for the whole
Right,
world, and that's it, and that is the same with the big companies taking it over. Terrible, but industrialization is a fact in this big world. You cannot, if you see how big they grow. I remember I grew one time in a greenhouse about 1,000 kilos or what, nearly 11, but that was a lot. But if you see now the greenhouses in America and in Thailand, they have top of the bill. They put billions in it, right? So of course these people we need them also if the whole world want to smoke good stuff, right? But
Right.
the responsibility to take care of your children, if you say it like that, because that is a bit how I feel it. You know, it is some. There's even lately they put a how you call it, a YouTube video on it, and that we keep the oldest one we got. We still have to see if they work, and lucky, you know, until now. But we lose, you know. They plant 10, and yes, one or two we lose, and then we're lucky that we still can do 8, and we produce them again. We have all small cells where they do that, but it is a tremendous job and expensive. So and it is it's a, it's a lot, you know. We got 36 small rooms, so you can imagine how many you can take, you know, how you can do. And then we have another place where we do some, but it's quite a responsibility.
Huge responsibility. That was the
Yeah.
word that was in my mind when you were speaking. It's a responsibility and a sacred commitment and a costly commitment to protect these beautiful genetics, which leads me I wanna jump into also, your meeting with Jack Harrer
Right.
and what that time was like, and telling people a bit more about the Cannabis Castle and, what those times were like so that people can travel back in time and hear it firsthand from the man who lived it.
Well, the Cannabis Castle was the place where Neville lived, and I think Steve Hager came up with that name. But about Jack, I knew already Hans Joachim Beer, a German historical cannabis activist, very intelligent guy. He had a lot of uh, material for Jack also, and he did all the beautiful things in Germany. And then Ed Rosenthal, I think again, he came to a cannabis cup at Jack, and he wanted to meet me. And I still have the video that one of the first times, maybe the second year or what, that I knew him. I invited him to my house in Rotterdam, above the coffee shop, and he was sitting on the table, and I say, Jack, I make a video of you, and he started, you know, in his, like amazing fighting spirit and amazing stories he told, you know, and we had the museum already, and he loved it also, and right away we become very close friends. It was you have that only seldom. I just had it here in Malaysia, and again with a guy who was very interesting. That you meet somebody and you click. You know, you got it, uh, and that is what happens with Jack. And so we did many things together, and we talked for days. You know, and then on a certain moment we won most of the prizes of the Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam, uh, until people started to cheat a bit. But Ed was there, oh, Jack was there, and I had a new variety. We had a new variety that Alan and even Neville worked on it a bit, but Alan, my son, was the main breeder of that. And that was a beautiful smoke. It is the best still what I think is there.
Yeah.
Jack, we,
It's in my
so I
top
said,
3.
Jack, I say, Jack, I say, I have this new variety and I want to put your name on it because it's nice for your book. It is nice for my seeds, for both of us. Yes, okay, okay. So, but I say, okay, I give you, I don't know what I 25,000 or what. I said, anyway, you know, but that's it. I don't want to, you know, maybe it's when it's not, people don't buy it or we change it again, whatever. I don't want to have commitments. Yeah, we totally agree. And then we had the Cannabis Castle tour, So I make the Cannabis Castle. We make a big party there, and Jack came there, and then oh yeah, Neville still was there, and then we there's a video on YouTube on it, Cannabis Castle tour, I think, and then Jack opened his safe, and there's the new variety, and he loved it. He was so happy. We had a good time. I love the guy. We are really very close, really.
It's
And
very special.
of course, uh, I was already a bit in the hemp thing, but a bit because that was the reason also that I say in Holland I grow hemp seeds, not marijuana seeds. So hemp is, and I even went to France to buy hemp seeds from the biggest France hemp company, of a seed company, and they refuse. So they say, no, we're gonna stop. Only when you buy, then we do for you. So I say, okay, I buy. So they make hemp seeds, but Jack was also hemp, all hemp, and I love that.
Mhm.
So again, I made money, a tool, and hey, let's go and do hemp, you know, and we
Yes,
and we
and
did
you
it, and
founded
then yes, we founded it, and it's now still running 35 years, and I lost a lot of money in it. I put a lot, not lost because everything, it was beautiful experience, and we there, we did it. We still there. I don't know how, but even we had a big fire in the factory a few months ago, but it just we still there, and we have a big insulation factory now in Germany with a big connect together with a big huge Belgium company, nice people who are really, I think they have also the feeling to do it with, this, they feel it hemp, they feel the plant, and that is a good thing. So, yeah, Jack was also inspiring in that sense. And I remember I bring him to the fields and to the factory, and the face, was, we did it. His dream, I did it. And he loved it. And we still have some photos, and videos. It's too bad we have so much content, so many things of the past, but it's in the past also. It's
well, let's see what we can do to help to honor that because I feel that, what Jack shared also it's inspired millions of people around the world, and for good reason, is that hemp can transform almost every single industry of business, of commerce. And the fact that you proved it and that so many auto companies are now buying your more sustainable materials, it is important. It's important to prove it and to ground it into reality in
yeah.
business, in good business.
Oh,
So
remember?
it's why I fell in love with you first 20 years ago when I heard your story of hemp flax because I said, here's a man that puts his money where his mouth is and his values are aligned with how he does business. And it's very hard to
They
do
put me in
that
jail. They
in
put me in
business.
jail also
Not just
for hemp.
business is difficult.
Really, really. They put me in jail,
And
and
it's
I
a
had to go to
thankless
court.
job.
First, I have to go to court. That I was not allowed to grow hemp, and I go to court, and the court allow me, and then they find it some bullshit that I grow the wrong seeds, and they put me in jail. And I have to go to court, and the first court say absolutely not guilty, and then they go for an appeal, and then there was three guys sitting there, and they say, actually you're in the wrong court, but we can handle it. And I think, okay, we are not guilty, no, and then guilty, and we had a big fine of 90,000 euro dollars, whatever, yeah, euros, not guilders. So it was a struggle, but it was also, you know, yeah, I had dreams about that also, and I had spiritual experience there. Not many, but a few. One of them was that I'm coming in the field in the beginning, and the plants are about 4 meters high, and then the harvest was so difficult, because hemp is so strong. We developed a machine for it later on, but when they cut it, they cut it in length from 4 meters, and then in the factory they have to cut it, and at the end it has to be 30 centimeters long. You know, so I
Yeah.
was standing on the field, and I said, can we not cut it in pieces? 60, 60 centimeters or what, and then we can still cut it in the machinery because the machine will break it also. So we spent about 175,000 to an engineer company who make a new harvest for us. And the harvest is really, and everybody use it now. I had a patent on it for 15 years. Fuck, it
Wow.
is already gone for many years, but it works. But I dreamed about it. I dreamed the solution actually. It was in my dream that I stand in the field and tell these guys, why don't we cut it? And then I came back to the factory, and there was one farmer, and I said, hey, well, shouldn't, yeah, that should be a big solution, because hemp is not easy, not to harvest, not decorticated. And I see companies starting, and many people call me and they say, we want to make a hemp company, or hemp, we want to grow hemp. And most of the time I said, how much money you got? And yeah, 50,000, 200,000. Don't do it, don't do it. It is because what I could, that is what absolutely you're right, what you say, not to flatter myself, but I put my money where my mouth was, because every year, sometimes we lose 2 million, 1 million, 2 million. But I couldn't give up. We changed the machinery, we changed everything, the harvester, but also inside the machinery, everything was there. We were the first one who started hemp again in Europe. And only in France there was a company. They make just a, I don't know how many acre for the Bible, the paper. So I think that it 20 acre or hectares to make paper for the Bible. That is still hemp paper. I don't know now, but that time. So, and then for the rest in Europe, nobody, there was hemp was totally not gone. So that was very, that's why they all say I'm an idiot. And, that is a wheat factory, not a hemp factory. It was for wheat.
I don't think anybody could say that you're an idiot ever again. I mean, for me, and
No,
the thing is, necessity was the mother of invention. But as you
yeah,
said, you were a sacred receiver because you let the information come into your mind, into your consciousness, and then you take action. And
yeah.
that's the difference, between a dreamer and a doer. To have the dream come into your consciousness and then to take action. And that's really what I want to share with the whole global community, is that it's that drive that the plant and Mother Earth, I say, Mother Earth has propagated consciousness through plants because she is the true sentient
Oh,
being,
absolutely.
and she's smarter than everyone.
It's
And,
all connected.
many, right. And that we really want to model ourselves after her and align ourselves with her in every aspect of life, especially in business. And I do think that that is the future. I think that that is a very core aspect of what I think is happening with this new renaissance.
Mm,
And it's very much inspired by people like yourself and by Jack. So I really appreciate, Ben, and just want to say thank you so much for having enough courage and
thank
also
you.
being ballsy enough to
Well,
say, fuck everybody. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find a way. And you've always found a way. And I just deeply admire and respect that. And it's an honor to have you
well,
here with me,
I,
share these stories.
I was, when we do everything, right? And with the museum, we did the Cannabis Culture Awards with hemp. And the journalists always ridicule us. We always only weeds, dope heads, and that's how they saw me, and that is how they saw hemp. Because I was the owner of the factory. But at the end now, then you think they should give me some recognition now. No, they should, right? They should eat the heart out now because that's what they see what I did. But no, and now I don't need that recognition anymore because I know what I did and I know that's good. And so that's it, and I'm happy that I can say that. It is sad because even Hemp Flax is still, you know, lucky that we do every time something else, and they don't have to. But even the last few years, I still have to put money in it. But no problem because now it's coming. The insulation is coming, and it is terrible if you see how much trees are still harvesting, like in Romania. We closed the factory in Romania because of the climate problems there, but also there they make the wood chips. I don't know how many thousands of hectares they cut to make plates. They can do that with hemp, uh, but they still make very cheap insulation from it, and they make very cheap. But that is not sustainable, and they say that is sustainable, durable. It's not. How can you say you cut something? You cut trees and you say that is sustainable? It cannot. Hemp is sustainable. That is a 1 year
Yes.
growth, and it does the same as how many acres of forest. The forest has to grow 12 years, and hemp 4 months, 3 months. So it is the big, and they open their eyes, and but also not. They open and close it down. We had a minister of Holland from the agriculture department. The minister came to the factory. He was really amazed. Wow, wow, wow. And at the end he say, "Yeah, but the market has to do it on his own." So, but in all the countries, like in Scotland, in Belgium, everywhere they got allowances 5, 7, 10, 15 million, and we need it if you want to go in there. And that's the same problem that I say, well, let the big company take us over because they can do it. I can't. We don't have the money to do the expansion. That is everything has to be industrial in a way. I'm sorry to say that. I don't like it also, but it is no other way. If you cannot just a farmer do all these things what these works really need. It is a lot of work to make paper, to make insulation, to make textile, to make all these things. And of course, the
Right.
small companies can go on with it also, but it is in we live in that time that you cannot do it on a small scale anymore. It is for some people can, but not many. And if you not if
Not
you want
the
to
masses.
not
Right.
if you want to give it to that everybody can benefit of hemp. That's what I
Right. To
mean.
influence the entire industry. Like
Yeah,
paper. I've always dreamed of printing Skunk magazine on hemp paper.
yeah,
But also, a lot of printers said, listen, if you get me a hemp roll, I'll run it. But you got to get me that hemp roll. And
yeah,
and that's the pressure. That's the pressure where you have to, as you said, you have to put your money on the line, and it can't just be you now. There has to be bigger conglomerates that say paper should be made of hemp. Period. End of story. We shouldn't
yeah,
be cutting down
yeah.
forests to create paper. And I dream of that day still, and I hope that we get there. And it's just something that, as I said, you are the example for people to follow, and I do hope that we get there one day. And, Ben, I wanna, finish because I could talk to you for hours.
Yes, we can with
And,
days.
and I
We
hope
can talk with
I
days.
hope to continue to talk with you for many years to come,
It was fun.
because you inspire me. But I wanna kind of finish with the future, and you touched on it a little bit, but to honor, the team, at Sensi Seeds, and the development of the US program, the breeding grounds project with Sander and the other colleagues there, and then just finish with that and share kind of what's happening with the future of Sensi Seeds, and then anything that you want to say to the global cannabis community in terms of inspiration or a friendly word of advice, uh, because you've been there, done that. You've done it for decades, and to me, it's so important to honor those who came before us and to have respect
Thank you.
for the way showers, the light bearers, the ones who sacrificed for decades to bring us to where we are now. This is what my devotion is with Skunk Magazine and why it's important to me to speak with you. And you're the first person on my show because to me you are the seed, you are the root, along with the other fellows that we spoke of, Dave and Ed and Neville. So can you speak about the future for Sensi Seeds and what's coming that excites you, and then finish with that final word?
Um, it is hard to say, when Germany went legal, uh, a lot of Germans bought seeds, a lot. It was really amazing. The second year is already less. And I thought maybe they still have seeds or something. But what I hear is that because of this totally legal now, a lot of people just buy the grass. They just go and buy it, even if it is still bloody expensive. Somehow they are lazy, but depends also where you are. If you live in the city, it's not so convenient to grow something. And if you live outside, you can do that better. And the future of Sensi Seed, to be honest, I don't know. There's also people who want to buy it, and it's the same thing. I'm retired a long time, and my son is the director, and my other son was working in the genetic department. But it is not easy. The same thing, like I said, it is something. If you have to, it's a brand, and it's hard work, and you need a good team, and it is also a matter of in this modern days, it's about selling and making money, selling and making money, and in that sense, we are still a bit conservative in a way, take it easy but I don't know yet. So but the future of Sensi Seed, I'm not sure about. If somebody come with the right price, probably we will sell it also if it comes in better hands because soon I will not be here anymore, and I think my sons are also quite tired working for so long. My son Alan lives in Thailand. He was very much involved with the legalization there in a way. He gives lectures in universities about cannabis. He got his honorary doctorate from the university. So it's nice, that you see that we spread we spread the word, and we spread also by doing it, like what you say. Uh, so the future, I don't know. It's probably. I think so. I hope so. That in Europe or in America, how many people grow tobacco? Not many, but still some do, right? And who grow his own vegetables? Not many, but more and more doing it, right? And that is,
Mm.
I think, a very positive thing, not only to grow your own food, but also grow your own herb and grow your own grass. That's beautiful. But people, not everybody can afford that or have the time or have the space for it. So I still hope that you know, the, like I said, we spread the plants all over the world, I think. And I hope people have still a long time fun of it. And that the most important that is that the diversity will be protected, that in good hands. And that probably is the same. And that the museum we didn't talk about, the museum in Amsterdam is doing less because the government make a new route and something happened, so it's going down. Barcelona is a beautiful museum, and but
Oh,
hard,
exquisite.
but so little visitors that it's unbelievable. Like I don't understand. And then, but there's a lot to see in Barcelona, and you have all the social. People really rather buy some smoke or drink or go to the discotheque or take ecstasy. I don't know. There is a change also in the youth, in young people. So maybe that's it. I don't know. But so even the smoking of marijuana is going down a bit, I think, because it's more and more synthetic stuff they take, or alcohol. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
hope,
and it hash has
yeah, that would be beautiful, if you can have really Afghan hash, in the coffee shops or whatever, in the dispensaries. That will be beautiful, beautiful hash from everywhere. If it would be legal in the world, that's what I hope. I think it will happen in the future. Yes, yes. Hmm.
I hope so too. I smoked my first traditional hash when I was 20 in Spain. I tasted the chocolate in 1998. That's when it was still really delicious and fudgy and amazing.
Yeah,
So I would love to see traditional hash make a stronger comeback because it is
yeah,
something that is very special and beautiful.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The qualities of it, the floral notes, and all the different
Hmm.
layers. Different than the solventless, which I also respect the solventless hash and all of those styles that have
Yeah,
come out.
but that is the thing. Exactly what you say. You got now the water hash. They make all kind of hash from the stuff that they grow. But if you smoke an original Lebanon from Baalbek Valley or an original from the Citral or from Afghanistan, that is
It's
there's something else. There's something there in you cannot make it. You cannot make it, and that is the same with grass. Where I say the old varieties we got in Sensi, the it's the same. You can crossbreed it whatever you like, but the high is different, and that
it's
is
spiritual.
I don't
I
know.
find
It's
that it's with these
mm,
old school hash and the nostalgic old school
yeah,
strains. It
yeah,
is
yeah,
the essence, the core essence of where that quality of high is completely magical and for me spiritual because it really takes you into God consciousness or universal consciousness so quickly. So I think that it is, that's my devotion as an educator is to educate, millions more people to
yeah,
remember, to know these things. Because the new generations coming up, we don't have the same forum energy that
yeah.
we did. So I could go on talking, but I want to leave it with this sense of what do you want to share, with the global cannabis community as an elder, as a man who has achieved so much through the
Well,
decades? And what do you want to see happen? And you better stay around for 30 more years,
tolerance.
Ben. Don't go anywhere.
No, but tolerance is a very important thing. Like you see, I smoke a cigarette still. I do that 60 years. So what, you guys? You don't smoke, up to you. I drink a glass of wine. Actually, not much, but especially now. And I smoke my joints with the sunset anytime. So, but tolerance is very important. Don't get so easy offended by things. Don't get so angry for little things. Be gentle to each other. Be friendly with each other, and give. It's so nice to give things instead of only getting it. Have your human heart speak, not your political shit. Not left, right, Trump, no Trump, whatever. No, it's your heart. You can see it. If you see suffering, it suffers, and then you try to help or whatever, or you stand up.
Okay.
And that's still the rebel in me that in my Facebook I cannot stop posting shit about, people going crazy probably, but I cannot see things that is injustice. And if people get hurt and people get killed, and you have all these crazy politicians talking nonsense, you know, when I was a kid from after the war, so we thought this never gonna happen again, right? That was also the slogan. But I don't believe in the world anymore. To be honest, I don't believe in the politicians. I don't. It's a game. They know everything already years before what's gonna happen in the world, and they should know. And they know, I think, how important hemp is and how important marijuana is, because I live in a country like Malaysia, and it's a beautiful, beautiful country, beautiful people. But I know, and I was in Thailand in a fair, and then I see ministers, and they come to me, hey, yeah, you from Amsterdam? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Coffee shop, coffee shop. But that it means they've been there also. They're all smokers
Yeah.
also. I learned that all the intellectuals and all the bloody rich people, they're smokers. If they see, hey, Ben, hey, and right away, friend. And then I feel it right away. You smoke.
But
I
that's
love
that
that.
connection. And I
So,
think, your message of love, that we're one humanity, that we're one planet, that we're one heart,
uh,
that we're one mind. And
is
and
one
that's
more
the
nice
truth.
thought.
Saying of it. And it's if people were going to apply it. And I think that's the best advice, because love
They
is the
should,
master frequency,
they
and
should,
love
they
wins.
should, yes, and they should get out of the closet. And I
Mhm.
remember Lester Greenspoon, professor, was a good friend of
Mhm.
mine. He's also in YouTube, has some movies. I was in Paris with him many years ago on a fair, how you call it, activist from France, Le Cirque. And then I had a speech, that people should get out of the closet. And Lester Greenspoon came out and thought, hey, Ben, you're right. Here I come out of the closet. I smoke also. And he never said that before because you're professor, he couldn't do it. He did it, And that is what all these people in power should do, and everybody should do. Don't be ashamed that you're a smoker. It is healthy, it's good, it is no problem. And everybody say it's a
Well,
problem. Well, look at all these old buggers like me, but there's still a lot around here. They all smokers for already how long, 65 years or what, so no, 60 years. And what happened? They go less to the doctor than the guys who don't smoke. So I feel okay with it. Is no, and that is science prove it more and more.
yep.
I think
And
you
more and
you
more
have
people
been
are coming out in entertainment and athletics.
yeah,
So it's evolving. And I would
yeah,
just say, I always respect your courage. I also am a humanitarian and stand up for those who are being oppressed. And people say, oh, you should be quiet. And I say, well, fuck you, because we're going to stand up for humanity. And I really deeply
yeah,
respect that about you as well, is that we must stand up against the unjust. But it's an
yeah.
act of love. It's an act of
Exactly.
love. And if we
Yeah,
take it back to
exactly.
that,
Wow, yeah.
that's really the driving intention. And
You
that's
cannot
the
say it
energy,
better.
even though fascism is rising right now, it's also pushing the youth into action. It's shaking them out of their apathy. And I feel, encouraged as much as I'm discouraged by the fascism. I'm also encouraged to see what the shadow pushes with the light, and to see high school students doing walkouts again, to see
Yeah,
people walking out across the planet, standing up for human rights, standing up for what is good and what is
yeah,
love with humanity. So that's what I would also say, is that this renaissance is pushing people into action through very dark circumstances. But it's the shadow and light, just like the garden. The
mm,
shadow and light, the birth and the death work together. As any good farmer knows,
Yeah.
the compost. You turn the shit to gold. And I think that that's what we're meant to do, and that's what you've done in your life, Ben. That is what you've done in your life. You turned the shit to gold. You made good compost.
All right. Okay.
So
Well,
thank you.
sometime I
Thank you
say,
so
okay, I want to tell one joke
Okay, tell it.
that that sometimes people, they come to me, what you do, and I said, well, when I shit, you still have to go and smell. Okay. Thank you,
True.
Julie. Was nice to talk
Thank
to
you
you.
so much, Ben. Likewise. So much love
Okay.
for you. Thank you for everything.
Love you too.
You
Bye.
too.